The Social Superpower, Why Caring Matters and How to Do It Better. Introduction. Imagine a world unburdened by the whispers of judgment, the sidelong glances, and the silent critiques of others. A realm where your confidence stands as an unshakable fortress, impervious to the clamor of the crowd. For many, this is not a fleeting daydream, but a persistent, almost universal fantasy. We have all felt that prickle of anxiety, that fleeting worry that we might have uttered the wrong word, done the wrong attire, or simply fallen short of some unspoken expectation. This ceaseless hum of social apprehension can feel like a crushing weight, prompting a wish to simply switch it off. Much like a malfunctioning appliance, we are often advised to just stop caring what other people think. It sounds deceptively simple, does it not? And a part of us readily acknowledges its logic. After all, if their opinions hold no sway, we are liberated. Yet, a deeper, quieter voice within us murmurs, "But I am a creature that cares." And here, the true narrative unfolds. For the truth is, this profound, innate need to value the opinions of others is not a flaw to be eradicated or a weakness to be vanquished. It is, in fact, one of the most potent forces that sculpted us into human beings. Consider this. For millennia, our ancestors dwelled within small, tightly interwoven communities. Survival was not the province of solitary strength. It was intrinsically linked to belonging. Acceptance, favor, the capacity for collective endeavor, these were paramount for securing sustenance, nurturing offspring, and warding off peril. To be ostracized from the tribe was tantamount to a death sentence. Thus, evolution has intricately wired us to be exquisitely attuned to social cues, to the perceptions of our peers. This inherent drive for connection and acceptance is the very wellspring of empathy, compassion, and the communities that enabled our species to flourish. It is the source of our most profound joys, the warmth of companionship, the quiet pride of belonging, the shared laughter that cements our bonds. When we experience the sting of social pain, such as the fear of exclusion, it is not a testament to feebleness, it is an echo of an ancient, indispensable survival mechanism. Neuroscientific research even reveals that social anguish, akin to the hurt of being alienated, can activate the same neural pathways as physical pain. Such is the depth of this ingrained imperative. However, here lies the paradox. Our ancestral brains, meticulously calibrated for the intimacy of tribal existence, now navigate an immeasurably altered landscape. Our concerns are no longer confined to the opinions of the 20 or so individuals within our immediate hamlet. We are now exposed to the thoughts of thousands, even millions, of potential social connections through the vast expanse of the internet, the pervasive reach of media, and the interconnectedness of global travel. While our fundamental need for connection remains as potent as ever, the context has undergone a radical transformation. We now possess a greater agency in determining who we invite into our inner sanctum, whose opinions truly merit our consideration. Yet, the ancient wiring persists, rendering us susceptible to fretting over the musings of strangers, distant acquaintances, or even individuals whose values stand in stark contrast to our own. This is the crucible of the modern dilemma. We yearn for validation, a natural human inclination, but if we seek it from misaligned sources, from those who hold no true consequence, or in ways that diverge from our authentic selves, we inevitably find ourselves adrift in a sea of anxiety, unfulfillment, and self-estrangement. To pursue the approval of petty, judgmental souls is akin to attempting to fill a sieve. No matter how much one pours, it remains perpetually empty. It is a guaranteed path to profound dissatisfaction. This, precisely, is why the objective of this book is not to guide you toward ceasing your caring. Such an endeavor would be as futile as attempting to halt one's own respiration. Instead, we shall embark on an exploration of a more empowering and liberating trajectory. Managed social concern. This is the foundational concept that will illuminate our path. Managed social concern is the profound understanding that while we are biologically predisposed to value the opinions of others, we possess an extraordinary capacity to consciously direct that concern. It entails recognizing that this intrinsic drive for social connection is a vital instrument, not an encumbrance, and cultivating that wisdom to wield it judiciously. This is not a call for indifference or emotional detachment, it is a summons to intentionality. It is about discerning which social circles, which individuals, genuinely warrant your earnest attention, and prioritizing what authentically resonates with your being above superficial affirmations. This principle rests upon two formidable pillars: your deeply ingrained personal values and your purposeful direction. When you possess a clear vision of what you champion and what you aspire to achieve, external opinions naturally recede into their appropriate perspective. You will discover that genuine esteem, and even liberation from judgment, often arises from an unwavering commitment to what truly matters to you. It is the deliberate act of curating your tribe and defining your purpose to ensure that your social needs serve your well-being rather than undermine it. In the ensuing chapters, we shall delve into the evolutionary roots of our social nature, dissect the contemporary challenges of validation, and, most crucially, equip you with actionable strategies to nurture your own managed social concern. We will learn to identify your core values, uncover the potency of a guiding purpose, and construct a framework for selecting those who genuinely merit inclusion within your sphere of influence. The journey toward authentic social mastery lies not in erecting barriers, but in forging a compass. Let us commence. Chapter 1. Understanding the need to care. 1. The desire to ignore opinions. A secret wish, a quiet fantasy many of us harbor, perhaps unacknowledged even to ourselves, is the dream of being utterly unbothered by the opinions of others. Imagine moving through life encased in an invisible shield, where a sidelong glance, a whispered remark, or even outright censure simply ricochets, leaving you entirely unmoved. This is the vision of an unassailable, perfect confidence, a state of being where external judgment holds no dominion. It is not a fleeting thought, but a deeply felt yearning for liberation, glimpsed in online dialogues, murmured in late-night conversations, and sometimes whispered into the quiet darkness before sleep. If only I didn't care so much. It is a potent desire, is it not? The promise of emancipation from the ceaseless, subtle hum of social evaluation that seems to pursue us everywhere. This longing to escape the weight of opinions brings us face to face with a question that echoes in countless minds. Why do we care so profoundly what others think? It is a question born of frustration, of feeling overwhelmed by the sheer volume of social clamor. The immediate, visceral answer is both simple and profound. We are social creatures. This is not a defect, a design flaw, or something to be surgically excised. Caring is not a bug. It is a fundamental feature of the human condition. It is woven into the very fabric of our existence, a testament to our deep-seated need for connection. To grasp this potent drive, we must rewind the clock, not by decades, but by tens of thousands of years. Our brains have not merely evolved to solve abstruse mathematical problems or to appreciate fine art. They have been meticulously sculpted by the relentless imperatives of group living. In the world of our ancient ancestors, social inclusion was not a mere amenity, it was the very arbiter of life and death. Expulsion from the tribe, ostracism from the safety and sustenance of the collective, was a death sentence. Envision being alone, stripped of the protection of others, vulnerable to predators, to hunger, to the elements. It is a stark reality, but it is the reality that forged our social instincts. Consequently, our minds are exquisitely attuned to discerning social cues. We are in perpetual, often unconscious, motion, scanning our environment for signals of approval or disapproval. A smile, a frown, a nod, a dismissive gesture, these are not random acts. They are vital pieces of information that delineate our position within the social topography. This innate need for acceptance means that perceived rejection, even in its most attenuated modern forms, can trigger a surprisingly potent emotional response. It is our ancient alarm system, still vigorously active, even when the danger is no longer literal starvation or physical assault. That flush of embarrassment when you falter in public, the knot in your stomach when you believe you have erred in speech, the sting of a critical remark. These are the reverberations of an era when social standing was paramount. The predicament arises when this formidable, ancient instinct, calibrated for survival within small, cohesive communities, runs amok in the intricate, often anonymous, and hyper-amplified social ecosystems of today. The desire to simply disregard opinions, while understandable, frequently springs from a misapprehension of our own nature. We may delude ourselves into believing that by simply switching off this sensitivity, we would achieve freedom. But here lies the crucial revelation. The objective is not to become a social recluse, impervious to all external feedback. This is not only an unattainable feat, but would also entail the sacrifice of much that renders life rich and meaningful. Reflect upon it. The very elements that imbue our social lives with richness, the effervescence of shared laughter, the solace of profound friendships, the warmth of empathy, the satisfaction of belonging, all are born from our capacity to care for others and to be cared for in return. Should we succeed in truly extinguishing our concern for the opinions of others, we might inadvertently extinguish our capacity to forge genuine bonds and experience authentic connection. Thus, the fantasy of absolute indifference, while alluring, is akin to wishing oneself into flight. It disregards the fundamental physics of our design. The pertinent question is not how to cease caring, but how to better manage this inherent inclination. It is about learning to channel this potent social energy, this evolutionary inheritance, in ways that augment our well-being rather than undermine it. This is the crux of what we shall explore, the concept of managed social concern. It posits that caring is indispensable, but how and about whom we care is where our true agency resides. Let us delve more deeply into why the notion of disregarding opinions is so pervasive, and why it represents such a challenging and often self-defeating aspiration. Consider Sarah, a gifted graphic designer. She is immersed in the creation of a new logo for a client, having invested countless hours and feeling a genuine sense of pride in her creation. Then, during a team meeting, a colleague offers a passing observation regarding the font selection. It is not a harsh critique, merely a casual remark, perhaps even intended neutrally. Yet, for Sarah, it lands with the force of a blow. Her stomach tightens, her mind races, and in an instant, the entire design appears flawed, amateurish, and fundamentally wrong. The client's opinion, which she was prepared to address, recedes into the background, supplanted by the imagined judgment of her colleague. Because the colleague is an integral part of her immediate social milieu, her tribe in a micro-context, their opinion, however casual, feels more immediately pertinent to her daily social standing than the potentially more consequential opinion of a client with whom she has less frequent contact. This intensity, this disproportionate reaction to ostensibly minor social feedback, is precisely what renders the desire to ignore opinion so seductive. We crave a state where such pronouncements lack the power to destabilize our confidence or our endeavors. We observe individuals who appear unperturbed by criticism, the audacious artist, the vociferous activist, the celebrity who shrugs off tabloid gossip, and we conclude that's it. That's the secret. We envision them as possessing a form of emotional armor, impervious to the barbs and arrows of social scrutiny. We imagine them as being utterly liberated, free to pursue their passions unburdened by the gnawing fear of others' perceptions. This fantasy offers a potent sanctuary from the very real anxieties that afflict so many of us. But let us pause and consider. What would it truly entail to disregard all opinions? If we were genuinely indifferent, would we still be capable of appreciating a compliment? Would we solicit feedback from mentors or trusted confidantes whose insights we hold in high regard? Would we be able to comprehend and respond to the emotional needs of our loved ones, which often necessitates our attunement to their perceptions of us and of the world around them? The answer, almost certainly, is no. True indifference would represent a form of social myopia, a profound isolation. It would signify a severing of ourselves from the very currents that enable us to navigate our social world, to construct relationships, and to mature as individuals. Recall the ancient village once more. If an individual consistently disregarded the opinions of their fellow villagers, they would not merely be deemed eccentric. They would be perceived as a threat. How could one place trust in someone who evinced no regard for the group's norms, who remained unmoved by collective disapproval of deleterious conduct? Their indifference would signal a deficiency of shared values, a potential hazard to the group's cohesion and security. This deeply ingrained comprehension of why social concern is vital helps elucidate why, even in contemporary societies where ostracism seldom culminates in literal demise, the fear of social repudiation can still feel so formidable. Our brains remain wired to interpret these signals as fundamentally consequential. The stakes may have shifted, but the underlying mechanism persists. Therefore, the fantasy of disregarding opinions is not an aspiration towards a higher state of being. It is frequently an anguished plea to escape the discomfort of our own deeply ingrained social programming. It is a desire to deactivate a system that, while occasionally painful, is also integral to our connection and survival as a species. The problem lies not in the existence of the system, but in its unchecked intensity and its misguided direction. This brings us to the essence of managed social concern. It acknowledges that, by our very nature, we are beings who care about the perceptions of others. This is not a failing to be rectified, it is a fundamental facet of our humanity. The evolutionary imperative for social connection means we are predisposed to sociability, to seeking approval, and to evading disapproval. This drive forms the bedrock of empathy, joy, and community. However, amidst the cacophony of modern existence, this innate drive can readily precipitate anxiety and dissatisfaction if we fail to manage it. Managed social concern does not advocate for a transformation into unfeeling automatons. It entails comprehending the evolutionary underpinnings of our social impulses and consciously selecting where to direct our energies. It signifies recognizing that the aim is not to eradicate our desire for acceptance, but to cultivate discernment regarding who we permit to influence us and why. It involves prioritizing our deeply held personal values and our sense of purpose above superficial validation. It is about understanding that genuine respect and liberation from judgment often stem not from being overlooked, but from demonstrating unwavering conviction in that which truly matters to us. It is the active, deliberate process of curating our tribe and our purpose to ensure our social needs serve our well-being rather than subvert it. Consider the potential deleterious repercussions of truly succeeding in ignoring all opinions. What if a friend offers gentle, constructive criticism regarding a habit that is genuinely detrimental to your relationships? By dismissing it, you risk forfeiting a crucial opportunity for personal development. What if a mentor imparts wisdom gleaned from years of experience that could spare you significant hardship? Left unchecked, this indifference could lead you down a path of avoidable missteps. On a broader scale, if we collectively cease to value the opinions of those who champion justice or environmental stewardship, what would become of our society? Our capacity to care about opinions, when thoughtfully directed, is the catalyst for progress, fosters accountability, and propels the construction of a better world. True indifference, therefore, is not a strength. It is a profound vulnerability that can precipitate stagnation and isolation, both on a personal and collective level. The desire to escape the burden of social judgment is entirely understandable. Our evolutionary trajectory has indeed equipped us with a potent radar for social cues, a system designed to ensure our safety within the group. But the path forward does not lie in constructing an impenetrable bulwark against all opinions. This would be akin to attempting to stem the tide with a sieve. Instead, the genuine trajectory is found in comprehending the intricate, often subtle, dance of social concern. It is about learning to harness its formidable energy, not by silencing it, but by directing it toward that which truly holds significance. This leads us to a pivotal question, one that will illuminate our subsequent steps. To whom shall we grant influence? And why? 2. Why we need social belonging. Consider a retrospective gaze, a journey back to an epoch untroubled by soaring edifices or lunar expeditions. We were creatures akin to deer or wolves, dwelling in intimate constellations, perpetually vigilant, ever attentive. Our continued existence was not predicated on solitary prowess, on the brute force of muscle, or the keenness of fang. It was woven into the very fabric of the collective, the fellowship of the pack, the solidarity of the tribe. To wander alone was to invite the predator's strike, the saber-toothed cat's swift descent, or to face the gnawing emptiness of winter, bereft of the means to fell substantial quarry. Belonging to the group was the bulwark against peril. It was the shared bounty of the hunt. It was the assurance of a watchful guardian whilst slumber claimed you. Herein lies the genesis of our innate yearning for social cohesion. It was not a mere amenity, but an indispensable prerequisite for survival. Reflect upon it. What were the prospects of a lone hominid confronting a charging woolly mammoth? Exceedingly meager. Yet 10 individuals, united by purpose and armed with sharpened spears, forged a tangible possibility of defense. That shared exertion, that profound sense of collective defiance against encroaching danger, was the crucible in which our ancestors' survival was forged. They gleaned the inestimable truth that interconnectedness, membership in the collective, was the paramount strategy for security and sustenance. This primal understanding remains deeply embedded within us still. It is the wellspring of our potent impulse to be embraced, to find our place, and to know that our presence resonates with those around us. This is not merely a sentiment, it is intrinsically imprinted upon our neural architecture. Scientific inquiry has revealed that the experience of social repudiation, being ostracized, overlooked by a cherished companion, elicits neural responses strikingly analogous to those triggered by physical trauma. Imagine the jarring pain of a stubbed toe. An immediate, sharp discomfort, is it not? Now, envision the searing humiliation of public censure or the chilling finality of being deemed unwanted. For a considerable number, this emotional torment can attain an equivalent, perhaps even exceeding, intensity. Neuroscientists have charted the activation of specific cerebral regions, such as the anterior cingulate cortex, during periods of physical agony. Curiously, this identical region flares with activity when we endure the sting of social pain, the acute ache of rejection. This revelation offers a profound insight. Our brains interpret social estrangement as an existential threat, akin to a physical wound. It is not an ephemeral conceit. It is a palpable, physiological signal that portends danger, a deviation from the norm, that could prove perilous. Hence, the profound disquiet, the deep-seated unsettling sensation that accompanies exclusion. It is our ancient survival apparatus sounding a dire alarm. Peril. You are solitary, and solitude is fraught with danger. This deeply ingrained imperative for belonging is as fundamental as our need for sustenance or hydration. It is a bedrock human requirement for our holistic well-being. When we are entwined with others, when we feel accepted and cherished, a profound sense of security pervades us. Our self-regard flourishes. We confront life's adversities with enhanced fortitude. It is akin to the steadfast foundation of a dwelling, rendering the entire structure immutable. Our self-worth, our confidence, our capacity for elation all are amplified by the strength of our social ties. But what befalls us when this fundamental need remains unfulfilled? When loneliness descends, isolation grips, or the pervasive sense of not belonging takes root, then the terrain becomes arduous. Loneliness is not merely a somber disposition, it can precipitate tangible afflictions such as anxiety, depression, and even physiological ailments. It is akin to dwelling in a structure perched upon an unstable foundation. Entropy begins to take hold. Our mental equilibrium erodes, and the repercussions can extend to our physical vitality. This is why psychologists frequently underscore belonging as one of our most elemental requisites, ranking alongside respiration and alimentation. It is indispensable for our flourishing, not merely our persistence. Now, you may ponder, this reasoning resonates with our ancestral lineage, but I inhabit a bustling metropolis. I possess a vast network of acquaintances on social media. Do I still require a tribe? The unequivocal answer is affirmative. The manifest forms of our social aggregations have undergone a profound metamorphosis since antiquity. We no longer subsist within insular, closely bound communities where every intimate detail is common knowledge and escape is an impossibility. Today, our choices proliferate. We can forge connections with individuals who share our avocations, our passions, or our professional aspirations, irrespective of geographical distance. We can participate in digital enclaves, cultivate friendships, and nurture relationships in ways our forebears could scarcely have conceived. Nevertheless, the elemental human drive for connection and the dread of excommunication have not diminished. Even with an expansive digital following, we retain a profound craving for that sensation of deep belonging, of genuine acceptance. Within a select cadre, we still aspire to feel that we hold significance for our people, our chosen tribe. The aspiration for validation within these self-selected circles, and the terror of their rejection, remains a potent force in our contemporary existence. It is as though the ancient engine continues to churn within us, even as the vehicle has been dramatically reconfigured. Thus, how did the direct, life and death ramifications of social exclusion in our ancestors past sculpt the intricate workings of our brains and minds today? Conceive of it as an extended, gradual process of evolutionary refinement. For millennia upon millennia, those individuals and groups adept at maintaining unity, fostering collaboration, and mutual protection were the ones who not only survived but also propagated their genetic legacy. Those who existed in greater isolation, or who struggled to harmonize with others, were less likely to endure and procreate. Across this immense temporal expanse, our brains evolved to become exquisitely attuned to social cues. We became hardwired to discern who belongs to our circle and who does not, who regards us favorably and who harbors disapproval, who expresses contentment and who betrays displeasure. These are not arbitrary observations. They represent vital intelligence for our social survival. Our capacity to interpret facial expressions, to comprehend body language, and to gauge the collective mood of a group all emerged because these proficiencies enabled our ancestors to navigate their social milieu and ensure their safety. This heightened sensitivity implies that when our need for belonging is imperiled, our bodies and minds react with remarkable celerity. We may experience a constriction in our chest, a quickening of our pulse, or a churning in our stomach. These are all physiological indicators that our ancestral danger alert system has been activated. Our thoughts may begin to race, replaying past interactions, questioning our missteps, or conjuring calamitous scenarios. We may feel an overwhelming urge to retreat, to conceal ourselves, or to desperately endeavor to rectify the situation and reclaim acceptance. These are the physiological and psychological responses that signal a threat to our need for belonging. They are potent, and they exist to safeguard us, just as they protected our forebears. This elucidates why, even when we intellectually apprehend that the disapproval of a stranger or the inability to integrate into a particular cohort ought to be inconsequential, it nonetheless exerts such a profound impact. It is because our ancient neural circuitry informs us that any threat to our social bonds constitutes a threat to our very existence. This deep-seated, evolutionary imperative for belonging forms the bedrock upon which our concern for the opinions of others is constructed. It is the potent, underlying rationale for our acute sensitivity to social cues and the considerable influence that the judgments of others can wield over us. It is not a vulnerability, it is a testament to our heritage as a profoundly social species, intrinsically programmed for connection. This ingrained, evolutionary mandate for belonging and the visceral terror of its absence accounts for why we are so exquisitely attuned to the perspectives of others. Yet, grasping the why is but the inaugural step. The genuine challenge and the pathway to authentic well-being lies in mastering the navigation of this fundamental human need, ensuring that our solicitude for social connection serves us rather than subjugates us. 3. The pain of social rejection. Picture, if you will, a time shrouded in the mists of antiquity. Our forebears existed in intimate collectives, akin to familial kinships or tribal units. Existence was a stark and arduous trial. Beyond the sanctuary of the group, peril lay in wait at every turn. Ravenous beasts, the unyielding caprice of the elements, and the ceaseless gnawing of hunger. Within the embrace of the collective, however, resided solace, shared endeavor, and security. To be a member of the tribe was to possess a slender thread of survival. It was to hold the possibility of life, of mirth, and of progeny destined to perhaps one day flourish. But what fate befell the outcast? What if the tribe decreed, "You shall no longer share our hearth"? This was no mere matter of melancholy or solitude. It was a pronouncement of death. Alone, one stood naked against the full onslaught of those primal dangers. The hunt became a futile endeavor, self-defense an impossibility, and the nurturing of a lineage an absurd dream. To be expelled was the ultimate, soul-chilling consequence. Thus, etched into the very marrow of our being, humanity is exquisitely attuned to the sting of social repudiation. Our cognitive architecture has not relinquished the memory of those primordial epochs. It remains intricately calibrated to perceive ostracism from the group as an existential threat of monumental proportions. It is the reverberation of an ancient sentinel, a primal alarm that shrieks, "Peril! You are solitary. Your survival is imperiled." Consider this analogy. Envision a clan discovering a bounty of luscious, succulent berries. A wave of communal elation sweeps through them, and all commence to gather. Then, one individual, let us name him Grug, begins to hoard, seizing far more than his equitable portion. His focus is not on the collective sustenance, but solely on the immediate appeasement of his own maw. The tribe observes. Initially, there may be murmurs of discontent, but if Grug persists in his avarice, if his conduct continues to undermine the group's welfare, the tribe is compelled to act. They might attempt discourse, but if he remains deaf to reason, they may be forced to utter, "Grug, this arrangement is untenable. You are inflicting harm. You must depart." And as Grug absorbs these pronouncements, a visceral dread seizes him. He comprehends the import. This is not merely about foregoing berries, it is the forfeiture of his entire universe. This profound, instinctual terror of being declared, "You are no longer among us," is indelibly imprinted upon our essence. It forms the bedrock of our profound concern for the estimations of others. This ancestral alarm system, this visceral apprehension of expulsion, wields an extraordinary dominion. Its potency is such that it can evoke sensations as acute as physical injury. Indeed, scientific inquiry has corroborated this very phenomenon. When we endure social rejection, be it through the icy silence of companions, the exclusion from a social gathering, or even the digital barb of a malicious online comment, our neural pathways illuminate in precisely those regions that register physical agony. Yes, you have apprehended this correctly. The exquisite discomfort you experience when subjected to unkindness can be processed by your brain in a manner strikingly analogous to the searing sensation of a burn or the dull throb of a contusion. Recall a moment when you felt a profound, unvarnished rejection. Perhaps it was a cutting remark from a cherished confidant, a public humiliation, or the sudden severance of ties by a friend. Remember that visceral sensation? That tightening in your gut, the constriction in your chest, the tide of sorrow that washed over you. It felt tangible, did it not? It felt painful. And so it is on a fundamental biological stratum. Our physiology mobilizes, releasing stress hormones such as cortisol, which can engender a state of heightened anxiety and unease. Our emotional equilibrium can be irrevocably disrupted, precipitating sentiments of desolation, isolation, and even animosity. It is a cascading symphony of unpleasantness, all precipitated by the gnawing sensation of being unwanted or undervalued. Compare, for a moment, the stark reality of a fractured bone with the insidious erosion of being disregarded by your entire social constellation. A broken bone is undeniably agonizing, a clear physical trauma. Yet, the emotional torment of social rejection can, at times, prove more persistent, more debilitating, and more recalcitrant to healing. While a broken bone will eventually mend with the aid of immobilization and the passage of time, the wounds inflicted by social pain can fester, leaving indelible imprints upon our self-worth and our capacity for trust for extended durations. This is why, even in scenarios where our immediate physical survival is not imperiled, the specter of rejection can inspire such overwhelming dread. It is an ancient echo, a vestige of a time when such fear was inextricably linked to the very act of staying alive. Now, you may ponder, but I do not subsist in a subterranean dwelling. I possess companions, a family, a livelihood. My existence is not imperiled should someone harbor an unfavorable opinion of me. And you are unequivocally correct. In the contemporary milieu, we are enveloped by an astonishing scaffolding of security that our primeval progenitors could scarcely have conceived. We possess medical facilities, social support systems, and a rich tapestry of interconnected communities. The severance from one group does not, by necessity, portend to utter annihilation. However, the sensation of rejection remains unaltered. The primal alarm system continues its vigilant vigil, even if the immediate threat has transmuted. We witness this phenomenon manifest across the entire spectrum of modern life. Consider the digital realm of social media. A solitary disparaging remark, a venomous rumor, or the deliberate exclusion from an online group exchange can evoke profound desolation. Individuals experience acute anxiety, shame, and alienation, all stemming from interactions within the virtual sphere. This is a contemporary resonance of that ancient dread. Turn your attention to the professional arena. To be consistently overlooked for advancement, to have one's contributions summarily dismissed during deliberations, or to feel relegated to the periphery of the office's social dynamics can precipitate chronic stress and a corrosive sense of inadequacy. Despite the continued receipt of remuneration and the provision of shelter, the emotional toll can be immense. It erodes one's self-assurance and imbues the workplace with a palpable sense of dread. Or contemplate the intricate dance of friendships. At times, friendships gracefully recede. Yet, on other occasions, it feels like a sudden, piercing repudiation. A friend ceases to initiate contact, fails to respond to missives, or one learns of their clandestine disparagement. The anguish of recognizing that a cherished connection has dissolved, or worse, that it was never as robust as one had perceived, can be excruciatingly painful. It compels introspection, a questioning of one's discernment, and a reassessment of one's place within the world. These contemporary manifestations, while not carrying the same immediate existential peril as being exiled from a prehistoric clan, nonetheless tap into that same deeply ingrained apprehension. They activate the identical ancient alarm bells within our cerebral architecture. The repercussions may manifest as psychological and emotional distress rather than physical trauma, but they are no less potent and can be equally incapacitating. This, then, is the genesis of our profound attentiveness to the opinions of others. It is not a superficial concern, it is an intrinsic facet of our human endowment, meticulously crafted to ensure our safety and foster our interconnectedness. This potent aversion to social rejection serves not merely as a wellspring of distress, but also as a formidable impetus. Reflect upon it. The dread of ostracism acts as a powerful catalyst, compelling us to conduct ourselves in ways deemed acceptable by the collective. It encourages us to internalize societal norms, to cultivate civility, to engage in cooperative endeavors, and to generally embody exemplary citizenship. We learn the efficacy of polite discourse, the virtue of sharing, and the imperative of considering the emotional states of others, in no small part because we are loath to be perceived as impolite, selfish, or recalcitrant, precisely those attributes that could precipitate our exclusion. This inherent drive to circumvent rejection can propel us toward constructive transformations. It may inspire us to refine our interpersonal proficiencies, to cultivate greater empathy, or to contribute more substantively to our communities. When we observe that our actions yield a favorable alteration in how we are perceived by others, and that this, in turn, fosters more robust connections, it reinforces our aspiration to be a valued constituent of the group. This represents a salubrious dimension of our social constitution, facilitating the cultivation and preservation of the relationships that are indispensable to our well-being. Conversely, this same apprehension can also steer us toward less advantageous trajectories. If our focus becomes unduly fixated on evading rejection, we may devolve into excessive people-pleasing. We might acquiesce to requests that run counter to our desires, solely for the acquisition of approval. We may suppress our authentic sentiments, convictions, or aspirations to circumvent causing offense or to avoid drawing undue attention. We might exist in a perpetual state of anxiety concerning the perceptions of others, even when such concerns are entirely gratuitous. This can lead to an existence characterized not by authentic self-expression, but rather by a ceaseless effort to conform to externally imposed archetypes. The ultimate consequence can be a profound sense of depletion, simmering resentment, and deep unhappiness, all stemming from an overzealous pursuit of universal acceptance. It is within this context that the concept of managed social concern begins to crystallize. The agony of rejection is an undeniably potent signal, but it is a signal that we can, with diligence, learn to comprehend and effectively regulate. It is not about silencing the alarm system entirely, an endeavor akin to attempting to extinguish our innate need for respiration. Rather, it is about acquiring the capacity to accurately interpret its pronouncements. It is about elucidating the reasons for the intensity of this emotional response and acknowledging that while the imperative for connection is fundamental, the method by which we pursue that connection and the individuals whose opinions we accord significance are matters that can be approached with greater discernment. The deeply ingrained antipathy toward social rejection, while frequently an uncomfortable experience, stands as a profound testament to our fundamental yearning for connection. It is a powerful signal, not an inherent deficiency. But as with any potent signal, its true value resides not in its mere existence, but in our capacity to interpret and respond to it with sagacity. Comprehending this primal pain marks the inaugural step toward mastering our social concerns, rather than being subjugated by them. We are intrinsically predisposed to care, and this capacity for care is paramount. The true challenge, and the pathway to genuine flourishing, lies in learning to direct that care with wisdom and a clear sense of purpose. 4. Choosing the right social circles. The notion that we ought not to care what others deem us to be is a pervasive one, masquerading as an indomitable shield against the world's censure. Yet, have you ever attempted to simply extinguish this innate human impulse? It is akin to commanding one's heart to cease its rhythm, a feat nigh impossible, and often, the very effort amplifies the distress. This is because, at our core, we are hardwired for connection. Our forebears, dwelling in intimate communities, were inextricably bound by the exigencies of survival. Membership within the tribe signified safety, sustenance, and sanctuary. Exile, conversely, often portended oblivion. Consequently, our brains evolved with an extraordinary acuity for deciphering social cues, gauging our standing amongst peers, and fostering an unwavering desire for belonging. This is not a flaw in our design. Rather, it is a pivotal adaptation that propelled our species toward flourishing. This ancestral circuitry continues to resonate within us. While we may no longer confront the immediate perils of predatory beasts, the primal need for communion, for affirmation, for a profound sense of belonging, remains a potent wellspring of motivation. It is the genesis of that subtle ache when faced with perceived disapproval, and the effervescent warmth that suffuses us when we feel truly perceived and cherished. This is not a vulnerability, it is the very bedrock of our social existence, the engine that propels empathy, collaboration, and the profound exaltation of collective spirit. However, herein lies the intricate dilemma of contemporary existence. Unlike our ancestors, whose social milieu was circumscribed and largely immutable, we now navigate a cosmos teeming with an unbounded array of potential affiliations. We can traverse continents, redefine our professional trajectories, immerse ourselves in virtual communities, and forge bonds with individuals from every conceivable stratum of society. This liberation, while extraordinary, liberates us from the tyranny of a few singular opinions. The true challenge, therefore, is not to abrogate our capacity for concern entirely, but to cultivate a far more discerning wisdom regarding whom we permit to influence us and why. This is the essence of what we term managed social concern. It entails the judicious redirection of our inherent yearning for social validation toward individuals and collectives that genuinely resonate with our aspirations, those who uplift us and harmonize with our deepest selves. Consider this: if you endeavor to manifest something of profound significance, be it a nascent enterprise or a creative opus, and you perpetually solicit approbation from those who fail to grasp your vision or actively undermine your efforts, what is the inevitable consequence? Their hesitations and critiques can manifest as crushing burdens, precipitating self-doubt and casting pall upon your capabilities. You may find yourself second-guessing every decision, paralyzed by the dread of their judgment, eclipsing the intrinsic value of your own purpose. This is not indicative of intrinsic deficiency. Rather, it stems from granting undue dominion to the perspectives of the unaligned. Their negativity, however unintentional, infiltrates your endeavors like a subtle poison. Conversely, envision yourself ensconced within a select cadre of confidants or collaborators who share your ardor. They comprehend the nocturnal vigils, the arduous trials, and the nascent triumphs. When they proffer counsel, it is invariably imbued with constructive intent and unwavering support, aimed at facilitating your ascent. Their conviction in your potential acts as a potent propellant, fortifying your resolve and amplifying your self-assurance. When their accolades grace you, they feel both earned and profoundly gratifying, emanating from a fount of shared comprehension and mutual esteem. This is the alchemy of aligning one's social constellations with one's intrinsic values and ultimate aims. The psychological and emotional repercussions of seeking validation from cohorts whose tenets diverge from your own cardinal principles can be both profound and deeply disquieting. When you ceaselessly covet the approval of individuals whose actions, convictions, or priorities stand in stark opposition to yours, you often find yourself ensnared in a vortex of internal dissonance. You may feel compelled to conform to behaviors that feel alien to your being, to suppress facets of your personality, or to feign assent to sentiments you fundamentally reject, all in the pursuit of their acceptance. This perpetual performance is profoundly enervating. It erodes your self-esteem, for at an elemental level, you are acutely aware of your divergence from your authentic self. This profound misalignment can precipitate a pervasive undercurrent of anxiety. You may find yourself perpetually consumed by the apprehension of their opinions, replaying conversations ad infinitum, dissecting their pronouncements for veiled condemnations. This unremitting vigilance siphons your mental reserves, rendering it increasingly arduous to focus on that which truly nourishes your soul. Over time, this can manifest as a palpable erosion of self-confidence. If the individuals with whom you most frequently interact fail to perceive your inherent worth or consistently deprecate your endeavors, it becomes facile to internalize their judgments. You may begin to question your own faculties, your decisions, and even your fundamental value as an individual. This is particularly poignant when these social constellations are ones you feel inextricably bound to, such as familial ties, professional associations, or long-standing acquaintances, rendering disengagement a formidable undertaking. Furthermore, such an environment can act as a formidable impediment to your personal germination. If the individuals in your immediate orbit do not champion your aspirations or actively dissuade you from forging novel pathways, your inclination to embrace risks or explore your latent potential diminishes. Their circumscribed perspective can constrict you like a cage, thwarting your discovery of nascent talents or profound passions. You may feel irrevocably ensnared, incapable of forward momentum, as the incessant drip of doubt from your social circle erodes your fortitude. The emotional toll is substantial, frequently culminating in sentiments of profound isolation, even amidst a throng of people, for the connection lacks the vital essence of genuine depth and mutual understanding. It is a hollow semblance of belonging. Thus, how does one actively identify and cultivate relationships within social orbits that unequivocally foster one's growth and resonate with one's most cherished life objectives, particularly when ensconced in environments that offer scant support? This is precisely where the paradigm of managed social concern reveals its transformative power. It is not an exhortation toward ruthlessness or the wholesale severance of ties. Rather, it is a call for intentionality and astute discernment. The inaugural step necessitates profound self-awareness. You must unequivocally apprehend your cardinal values. What principles are immutable for you? What archetype of individual do you aspire to embody? What imbues your existence with a deep sense of meaning and purpose? Dedicate time to introspective contemplation. Journaling, serene meditation, or candid dialogue with a trusted, impartial confidant can serve as invaluable aids. Once you possess an unclouded vision of your values and purpose, you can commence a meticulous evaluation of your existing social constellations. Pose these inquiries to yourself. Do the individuals with whom I invest the preponderance of my time generally champion my objectives and aspirations? Do they embody principles that I deeply admire and seek to cultivate within myself? When I confide my dreams or my struggles, do I feel genuinely heard and uplifted, or dismissed and disparaged? Do their perceptions of me generally align with how I perceive myself at my zenith? It is imperative to approach these reflections with unvarnished honesty, devoid of self-recrimination. This is not an exercise in fault-finding. It is an endeavor to amass crucial intelligence for the purpose of making deliberate and empowered choices. Upon completing your appraisal of your present circumstances, you may embark upon the active process of cultivation. This encompasses two principal methodologies: the nurturing of extant positive relationships and the deliberate pursuit of novel connections. For those existing relationships that exhibit nascent promise, invest a greater measure of your energy. Allocate time to the individuals who elevate your self-perception, who challenge you constructively, and who share your fundamental worldview. Deepen these bonds by embracing greater candor, revealing your authentic self, and reciprocally offering your unwavering support. These are the individuals whose opinions will organically carry greater import, and you will discover that their affirmation serves as a wellspring of strength rather than a source of disquiet. Should you perceive yourself ensnared within unsupportive environs, the prospect of forging new connections may appear daunting. Yet, recall that you are no longer tethered by the constraints of your ancestral commune. The world is an expansive tapestry. Commence with modest steps. Contemplate activities or interests that genuinely ignite your passion. Do you revel in the serenity of hiking? Seek out a local hiking collective. Are you ardently devoted to a particular cause? Offer your volunteer services to an organization that champions it. Are you acquiring a new proficiency? Enroll in a course or workshop. These are natural conduits for encountering individuals who share your enthusiasms and, frequently, your core values. As you encounter new individuals, attune your senses to the resonance they evoke. Do conversations flow with effortless grace? Do they exhibit genuine curiosity regarding your discourse? Do they articulate themselves with kindness and integrity? These are auspicious indicators of a potentially salubrious social affiliation. It is perfectly acceptable to exercise a modicum of caution initially. There is no imperative to bare your most intimate vulnerabilities to every soul you encounter. Cultivate trust incrementally. It is also beneficial to recognize that social circles need not invariably comprise vast congregations of intimate friends. They can be a mosaic of disparate individuals, each fulfilling distinct needs. You might possess one circle for intellectual discourse, another for shared avocations, and a select few individuals upon whom you rely for profound emotional solace. The paramount consideration is that each of these connections, in its unique capacity, should harmonize with your values and contribute affirmatively to your overall well-being. Consider Sarah, who was ensconced in a demanding corporate role characterized by a culture of intense competition and frequent criticism. She found herself in a perpetual state of stress, second-guessing her contributions and feeling profoundly depleted by the pervasive office politics. The pronouncements of her colleagues and superiors exerted a considerable burden upon her. Her cardinal values, however, were intrinsically linked to collaboration, creativity, and the generation of positive impact. She came to the stark realization that seeking validation within this milieu was an inexorable pathway to profound unhappiness. Consequently, Sarah began to make deliberate and conscious choices. She initiated the practice of dedicating enhanced time to her weekend pottery classes. It was there that she encountered a diverse assembly of individuals who shared her profound appreciation for artistic creation. They lauded each other's endeavors, offered gentle suggestions, and celebrated each other's progress without the imposition of judgment. Their perspectives, centered on the craft and the sheer joy of creation, felt profoundly nourishing. She also established a modest book club with a handful of colleagues from disparate departments who shared her predilection for thoughtful literature and open dialogue. These interactions provided a refreshing respite, a sanctuary where she could authentically express herself and engage in conversations of genuine substance. By consciously electing to invest her social capital in these more congruent circles, Sarah did not magically attain immunity from workplace criticism. However, the sting of negative feedback from her colleagues demonstrably diminished. Their opinions began to recede into the background cacophony, supplanted by the potent and unwavering sense of self-worth she derived from the positive affirmations of her pottery collective and book club. She gleaned the profound insight that her value was not solely delineated by her corporate performance, but by the authentic connections she was meticulously forging and the passions she was assiduously nurturing. Her managed social concern signified that the opinions that truly resonated were those emanating from individuals who perceived and cherished the Sarah who held creativity, collaboration, and genuine connection in the highest regard. This deliberate recalibration of focus is an experience of profound liberation. When your values and purpose are unequivocally defined, and when you are surrounded by individuals who mirror and champion these very attributes, the pronouncements of those beyond your chosen orbits naturally begin to relinquish their dominion. They become increasingly irrelevant, for you possess a robust internal compass and a supportive external framework that anchors your sense of self. Their judgments lack the potency to destabilize you, for your foundation is constructed upon something far more enduring than their ephemeral approbation. You are not striving for universal appeal. You are steadfastly adhering to your authentic self, fortified by those who matter most. This is the genesis of transforming our innate inclination to care into an extraordinary superpower for enduring well-being. By consciously curating the individuals whose perspectives we permit to sculpt our self-perception, we commence the transformation of the often anxious hum of social concern into a formidable, guiding force. Yet, this intentionality transcends mere association. It demands an unyielding comprehension of what we stand for and why. Consequently, the subsequent imperative is to delve into the bedrock upon which these vital choices are erected, our personal values. Chapter 2. Building a Strong Inner World. 1. Finding your personal purpose. When the clamor of the outside world, thick with whispers and judgments, threatens to overwhelm, it's easy to feel adrift, a solitary vessel buffeted by a tempestuous sea. Our days can become consumed by deciphering the thoughts of others, striving for an elusive conformity, or perpetually fretting over a misspoken word. This ceaseless scanning of the social horizon is it not, an exhausting endeavor? It's akin to navigating by a compass whose needle spins with frantic abandon, pointing everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. But what if an alternative existed, a true north, a steadfast guiding star that rendered all other directions inconsequential? This is precisely where the discovery of your personal purpose intervenes. Recall, perhaps with a fleeting clarity, those moments of profound absorption when the external world seemed to simply dissolve. It might have been offering solace to a friend in distress, immersing yourself in the throes of a creative pursuit, or championing a cause that resonated deeply within your soul. In those instances, did the opinion of Mrs. Henderson from down the lane regarding your hairstyle occupy your thoughts? Or did you fret about whether your colleague noticed a momentary stumble in your speech? Assuredly not. Your focus was singular, fixed upon the task, the individual, the mission at hand. This is not mere pleasant diversion. It represents a fundamental recalibration of our operational framework, and it is within this shift that the true art of managing social concern commences. A distinctly articulated personal purpose serves as an unyielding anchor. It is the terra firma beneath your feet when the gales of public opinion begin to rage. It bestows upon you a potent why that effortlessly eclipses the anxious what-if-they interrogations that plague us. When your investment runs deep in something that transcends the confines of the self, the pronouncements of those who fail to comprehend, or indeed, to champion, that mission naturally diminish in their capacity to inflict harm. They recede into the background, akin to distant sounds drowned out by the resonant hum of your intrinsic drive. This is not a renunciation of connection, but rather a redirection of our innate human yearning for belonging and acceptance. Instead of seeking affirmation solely for who you are in the estimation of others, you endeavor to do something of substance. This outward orientation harnesses that primal, evolutionary imperative for social bonding and channels it into a potent, forward momentum. It offers a higher denomination of social currency to pursue, one earned through meaningful contribution rather than ephemeral approbation. Consider the elegantly simple, yet profoundly revealing, thought experiment we broached earlier. Envision yourself walking along a thoroughfare and witnessing a building engulfed in flames, with the unmistakable cry of an infant emanating from within. What is your immediate response? It is not, "I hope I do not appear foolish by rushing in." It is not, "What might the neighbors think of my perceived recklessness?" It is unequivocally, "I must rescue that child." In that singular instant, the imperative of the purpose, the preservation of a life, obliterates any vestige of concern for social scrutiny. You would likely surge forward, perhaps without a second thought for your appearance or the potential pronouncements of others. This potent, instinctual reaction demonstrates that when a purpose is vital and immediate, our social radar conveniently tunes out the ambient noise. The pursuit of your personal purpose is about cultivating that very same degree of clarity and urgency for those matters that hold paramount importance in your daily existence. It is about identifying your own unique burning buildings that beckon you to action, even in the absence of literal conflagrations. This leads us to a rather incisive inquiry, a veritable litmus test for the depth of your inner convictions. What are you willing to endure ridicule for? This is not, naturally, an enticement to court derision. Such a pursuit would be not only counterproductive but, frankly, rather masochistic. Yet, ponder this. If you truly hold something to be self-evident, if it forms an intrinsic part of your being, and what you feel compelled to undertake, are you prepared to navigate a degree of awkwardness, a constellation of rays, eyebrows, or even outright condemnation? If the mere contemplation of others scoffing at your aspirations, your avocation, your passion, or your deeply cherished belief sends a tremor of apprehension through your being, it may serve as an indicator that your purpose has not yet attained its full, robust potential. It suggests that the specter of social disapproval still wields greater sway than your commitment to that particular vision or undertaking. When a profound sense of purpose imbues you, when your why is unequivocally clear, you cultivate an augmented resilience. You begin to perceive that while ridicule is never a pleasant experience, it is a price worth conceding for the sake of unwavering authenticity and allegiance to your mission. This preparedness to confront potential disapproval is a direct gauge of the genuine significance something holds for you. It is the signpost that delineates fleeting desires, such as the yearning for popularity or admiration based on superficialities, from the deeply ingrained values and purposes that constitute the very bedrock of our well-being. It liberates us from the pervasive fallacy that the panacea for social anxiety lies in becoming callous or indifferent. Rather, it illustrates that we can be profoundly compassionate, but direct that compassion towards that which truly nourishes our spirit. This willingness to embrace vulnerability for the sake of a cause or a passion also illuminates how a robust personal purpose fundamentally alters the perceived weight of social approval. It is not that the inherent need for connection dissipates. Evolution has indelibly imprinted us with the drive to seek belonging. However, when a purpose is in play, the nature of the belonging you seek undergoes a transformation. You are no longer merely in pursuit of generalized acceptance. You are seeking acceptance within a context that harmonizes with your mission. The opinions that accrue the greatest significance become those emanating from individuals who comprehend your journey, who tread a similar path, or who are demonstrably benefited by your endeavors. The perspectives of those who are either indifferent or actively dismissive of your purpose naturally begin to recede into the periphery. Your purpose acts as a discerning filter, assisting you in identifying which external voices merit amplification within your own consciousness, and which can be safely relegated to the realm of ambient noise. This encapsulates the very essence of managed social concern, the deliberate selection of individuals and elements worthy of your social energy rather than surrendering to the dictates of external cacophony. So, how does this manifest in practical terms? When your purpose is lucidly defined, you organically become more discerning in your choice of social affiliations and the conduits through which you seek validation. Consider it thus: if your purpose is to champion the welfare of animals, you will naturally gravitate toward individuals who share this affinity, who volunteer at shelters, or who are actively involved in animal advocacy. Their opinions regarding your efforts to rescue a stray canine or your decision to adopt a vegan lifestyle will carry substantial import. Because they grasp the underlying rationale for your actions, you share a common terrain, a mutual concern. Conversely, an individual who harbors no affinity for, or perhaps even an aversion to, animals might offer a critical assessment of your commitment. Previously, such criticism might have inflicted a profound sting, prompting self-doubt. However, with a clearly delineated purpose, their opinion, while perhaps still mildly irksome, forfeits its power to derail you. You can acknowledge their viewpoint without allowing it to erode your conviction. This is because your purpose has furnished you with a novel framework for appraising external feedback. It is not about erecting barriers, it is about optimizing your social energy and focus. you naturally draw nearer to those who endorse and comprehend your mission, thereby cultivating a social milieu that reinforces, rather than undermines, your purpose. This represents a formidable strategy for managing social concern by empowering your purpose to act as a potent magnet, drawing in the appropriate connections and repelling that which does not serve your mission. From an evolutionary vantage point, this drive for purpose is deeply embedded within our being. For eons, the survival and advancement of humanity were inextricably linked to individuals and groups possessing clear, shared objectives. Whether it involved collaborative hunting expeditions, the construction of communal shelters, the nurturing of offspring, or the collective defense of the community, a shared purpose was indispensable. Those who could unite around a common mission were demonstrably more inclined to flourish, to innovate, and to propagate their lineage. This innate human imperative for meaningful contribution remains a potent force within us. When we perceive ourselves as integral to something larger than ourselves, when our actions yield tangible, positive results, we experience a profound sense of fulfillment. This evolutionary advantage conferred by purposeful action signifies that the gratification of this drive is not merely a psychological amenity. It is a fundamental prerequisite for our well-being. When we operate in congruence with our purpose, we exhibit an inherent resilience. We are imbued with a greater reservoir of motivation. We experience a deeper, more abiding satisfaction with the trajectory of our lives. And crucially, this fulfillment diminishes our reliance on the ephemeral validation of others for our self-worth. We are not compelled to be universally liked or approved of, because our sense of value is derived from the impact we effect, the contribution we render, and the journey we are undertaking. It serves as a potent antidote to the anxiety that arises from the perpetual quest for external affirmation. It taps into our most ancient instincts for survival and connection, but redirects them towards a more enriching and sustainable mode of existence. To truly grasp this concept, let us pose ourselves a pertinent question. Within the framework of managed social concern, what are the precise criteria by which an individual possessing a well-defined personal purpose discerns which external opinions warrant consideration and which can be safely disregarded? This is where the practical application becomes paramount. When your purpose is clearly defined, you develop an internal compass that guides you through the vast expanse of opinions. Firstly, you assess the alignment of the source. Does this individual espouse a comparable set of values? Are they embarked upon a similar trajectory? Are they invested in the same caliber of positive outcome that you are? If someone is deeply committed to environmental conservation, their perspective on your efforts to curtail waste will likely hold greater weight than that of an individual who openly scoffs at concerns regarding climate change. Secondly, you scrutinize the intent underpinning the opinion. Is it offered constructively with the aim of fostering your growth or advancing your purpose? Or does it appear to be born of envy, misunderstanding, or a desire to undermine you? A friend offering gentle feedback on how to enhance your advocacy is fundamentally different from a stranger posting a dismissive remark online. Thirdly, you evaluate the relevance to your purpose. Does this opinion directly pertain to the mission you are striving to accomplish? If your purpose is to author a novel, a critique of your plot development is germane. A commentary on your choice of hosiery, however, is likely not. Finally, and perhaps most significantly, you weigh the opinion against your own internal compass. Does the feedback resonate with your inherent sense of rectitude and truth? If an external opinion clashes with your core values or your intuitive understanding of your purpose, it constitutes a potent signal to disregard it, irrespective of the vehemence with which it is articulated. By applying these criteria, the individual with a robust personal purpose is not exhibiting arrogance or dismissiveness. They are engaging in a process of judicious selection and strategic prioritization. They are actively practicing managed social concern by consciously discerning which social feedback is constructive and which is merely extraneous noise. They comprehend that not all opinions are created equal, and that their energy and focus are precious resources that ought to be directed towards that which truly matters. This process of active selection and prioritization empowers them to construct an unassailable inner edifice, one that remains impervious to the buffeting winds of external judgment. Once you commence the endeavor of uncovering and embodying your personal purpose, you embark upon the construction of an unshakable inner foundation. This newfound clarity not only attenuates the influence of external judgment, but also illuminates the path ahead, providing direction for your actions and interactions. However, this internal fortitude is not forged in isolation. It necessitates the cultivation of a profound comprehension and acceptance of your own values, which serve as the bedrock upon which your purpose is erected. Consequently, the subsequent step involves an exploration into the methodologies for identifying and adhering to these core personal values. 2. Staying true to your values. We often find ourselves adrift on the capricious currents of others' opinions, a fragile vessel buffeted by the tempestuous winds of external judgment. One moment we stand tall, fortified by confidence, only to be plunged into the depths of doubt the next, all because of a spoken word or a perceived flicker of disapproval. It is tempting to resign ourselves to this as an inescapable facet of existence, or worse, to brand it a weakness requiring the stoic armor of utter indifference. But what if the antidote lies not in ceasing to care, but in learning to care with a more discerning heart? What if we could master the helm of our own being, rather than simply being swept along by the tide? The key to this profound mastery, this enduring inner equilibrium, resides in the cultivation of a robust inner world. Envision it as the construction of a formidable dwelling. A foundation riddled with fissures and walls of flimsy construction will tremble at the slightest tremor. Yet, a structure fortified by solid bedrock, unyielding walls, and a meticulously drawn blueprint can stand unbowed against the most ferocious gales. This inner sanctuary is erected upon two indispensable pillars, self-awareness and, for the voyage we undertake, our deeply ingrained personal values. The unwavering compass of your values. Our values are the very bedrock of our identity, the fundamental beliefs that chart our course through life, the principles we cherish, and the standards by which we discern the good, the right, and the significant. Unlike the ephemeral nature of fleeting opinions or the ever-shifting sands of social approbation, our values are the silent, constant hum beneath the surface of our actions. They are the profound why that underpins our choices, the intrinsic compass that guides us toward authenticity. When we navigate life in harmony with our values, we experience a profound sense of integrity, a deep resonance of being truly ourselves. This is not a posture of stubborn inflexibility, but rather the anchoring of an internal bulwark that keeps us steady, even when the gales of external judgment howl with ferocity. But how, then, do we unearth this anchor? Many traverse life's expanse without ever pausing to ask themselves the pivotal question, what do I truly stand for? We may admire virtues in others' courage, compassion, honesty, yet fail to translate that admiration into a crystalline understanding of our own core tenets. This lack of clarity renders us profoundly vulnerable. Without a clear grasp of what genuinely matters to us, how can we possibly discern whose pronouncements merit our consideration? We become akin to a weather vane, spinning erratically with every passing gust, desperately seeking a direction that will appease the gaze of onlookers. This is the fertile ground from which anxiety springs. We may find ourselves ensnared in the web of people-pleasing, acquiescing to demands that chafe against our will, or pursuing paths that leave us unfulfilled, all in a futile attempt to meet expectations we have not even articulated for ourselves. The quest to identify your values is an intensely personal odyssey, yet one that promises an immeasurable richness of reward. Reflect upon those moments in your life when you felt an unadulterated joy, a vibrant aliveness. What activities engaged you? Who graced your presence? What guiding principles informed your conduct in those luminous instants? More often than not, these peak experiences are a direct manifestation of your core values in vibrant action. Conversely, consider periods of profound dissatisfaction or poignant regret. What was conspicuously absent? What compromises did you make that now haunt your memory? Perhaps it was the erosion of honesty, the abandonment of fairness, the stifling of creativity, or the severing of connection. Another potent avenue for value discovery lies in examining the qualities you most revere in others. When you encounter an individual and experience a surge of admiration, what specific attributes spark that inspiration? Is it their unwavering devotion to a cause? Their capacity to articulate their truth with grace? Their profound empathy for fellow beings? These admired traits are frequently echoes of values you hold dear or aspire to embody. Consider, too, a simple yet illuminating exercise. Imagine your remaining time on this earth is finite, and your deepest aspiration is to have lived a life that resonates profoundly with you. What would be the paramount achievements or experiences you would yearn for? What manner of person would you wish to have been? The answers to these introspective inquiries often illuminate the very core of your values. A further practical approach involves compiling a list of commonly held values: integrity, adventure, compassion, growth, security, freedom, and so forth, and then meticulously distilling it to your paramount 5 or 10. This is a process of refinement, of asking yourself, does this truly resonate with my spirit? Is this a guiding star for my existence? It is crucial to acknowledge that your values are not immutable decrees, but rather dynamic entities capable of evolving as you mature and accumulate life's experiences. The ultimate aim is not to arrive at a static inscription, but to engage in an ongoing, introspective dialogue about what truly holds meaning. Once you begin to apprehend your core values, they transform into an extraordinarily potent filter for social concern. This is where the concept of managed social concern truly finds its embodiment. Rather than being overwhelmed by the cacophony of every opinion, you can begin to pose the question, does this individual's perspective align with my values? Is this feedback emanating from someone who grasps or respects my fundamental principles? Picture yourself as an artist who holds creativity and authenticity in the highest regard. You pour your very essence into a creation. Then, an individual who prioritizes conformity and commercial viability declares it to be unmarketable or unpopular. If your paramount objective were to appease this critic, you might be tempted to abandon your vision. However, if your core value is creative authenticity, you can recognize that their critique, however well-intentioned from their vantage point, fails to align with your artistic aspirations. Their opinion thus recedes in significance, its sting diminished, precisely because it originates from a sphere that does not honor your deepest principles. You can absorb their feedback, perhaps gleaning insights into presentation, but you are not beholden to allow it to compromise your artistic integrity. This is not an invitation to defensiveness or dismissiveness. It is an exercise in discernment. Managed social concern signifies a thoughtful engagement with the opinions of those who form your chosen tribe, individuals who share or respect your core values and are invested in your well-being. It entails valuing feedback that fosters your growth in ways congruent with your purpose. It means caring for the welfare of your community through the lens of your values of compassion or justice. Crucially, it also means recognizing that the pronouncements of those outside this circle, or those whose values stand in stark opposition to yours, need not carry the same weight. They can be observed, perhaps understood, but they are not mandated to dictate your actions or erode your sense of self. This filtering mechanism empowers you to channel your social energy with greater efficacy. Instead of dissipating your concern thinly across a vast expanse of people and opinions, you can concentrate it where it truly matters, where it nourishes you and enables you to contribute meaningfully. However, the identification of values is but the initial stride. The true power, the ultimate test of remaining true to oneself, lies in the act of embodying those values, especially when faced with adversity. This demands courage. It necessitates a willingness to potentially encounter social friction, to be misunderstood, or even to endure ridicule. Consider the narrative of Dr. Anya Sharma, a scientist who dedicated years to the painstaking research of a rare disease. Her work, though groundbreaking, was fraught with controversy, challenging established medical dogma. Numerous colleagues implored her to abandon her pursuit, to pivot toward more accepted avenues of inquiry. They cautioned her about the potential detriment to her reputation, the specter of funding cuts, and the prospect of social ostracism. Anya's core value was the unyielding pursuit of truth and the alleviation of human suffering. She recognized the profound potential of her research to benefit countless lives, even if it was unpopular. She possessed the option to succumb to the chorus of doubt and conform. She could have opted for the path of least resistance, chosen a less arduous trajectory, and preserved her standing within the scientific community. But to do so would have constituted a betrayal of her deepest principles. Instead, Anya resolved to stand firm. She persevered with her research, often navigating a landscape of limited resources and enduring significant criticism. It was, at times, a solitary path, and there were moments when the burden of disapproval felt almost insupportable. She had to actively manage her social concerns, choosing to prioritize the potential impact of her work over the fleeting comfort of social acceptance. In time, however, her unwavering dedication began to bear fruit. The evidence accumulated, and her findings gradually garnered recognition. Those who had once been her detractors began to reevaluate their perspectives. More significantly, Anya's own sense of self-respect burgeoned exponentially. She had confronted a formidable challenge and remained steadfastly true to herself. The respect she ultimately commanded was far more profound and enduring than any superficial popularity she might have attained through conformity. Herein lies the paradox. By daring to embrace our authentic selves, even when it draws disapproval, we often earn a more genuine and lasting respect from others. When individuals perceive that your motivations stem from something deeper than fleeting trends or the desire for approval, they begin to trust your conviction. They may not always concur with your views, but they will likely honor your integrity. The alternative, conforming to external expectations, may offer temporary respite from social pressures, but it exacts a considerable toll. It hollows you out from within. It breeds a quiet, gnawing dissatisfaction, an inner knowing that you are not living a life that is authentically your own. It is akin to wearing ill-fitting garments all day. Though they may be fashionable, they chafe incessantly, a constant reminder that something is not quite right. The courage to act in accordance with your values is a muscle that strengthens with consistent use. Each decision, whether grand or minute, that aligns with your deepest beliefs fortifies your internal compass. It cultivates resilience against the pressures of external judgment. This is the very essence of managed social concern. It is an active choice regarding where to invest your energy, not a passive capitulation to external forces. It is the understanding that true liberation from judgment often arises from demonstrating an unwavering conviction in what truly matters to us. Furthermore, our values are inextricably linked to our sense of purpose. A robust purpose provides a compelling why that can render social opinions remarkably insignificant. Consider the individual who rushes into a burning building to rescue a child. Their immediate purpose to save a life transcends any concern for personal safety, the opinions of bystanders, or the inherent risks involved. Their value of protecting the innocent, coupled with the immediate purpose of rescue, creates an unstoppable force. When you possess a clear sense of purpose, a meaningful objective or mission that propels you forward, your core values serve as the guiding principles for its pursuit. If your purpose is to establish a sustainable enterprise, your values might encompass integrity, innovation, and environmental stewardship. These values inform how you endeavor to achieve your purpose, ensuring that your actions are not only effective, but also ethical and congruent with your authentic self. This synergy between values and purpose generates a formidable internal engine, rendering you far less susceptible to the anxieties of social concern. The external clamor fades into insignificance when you are focused on a meaningful mission guided by your deepest convictions. Thus, the absence of clearly defined personal values leaves us adrift. Without an internal compass, we become more susceptible to the detrimental effects of social concern, the pervasive anxiety, the inclination toward people-pleasing, the persistent feeling of not being oneself. We become excessively preoccupied with the opinions of others because we lack an internal benchmark against which to measure ourselves. We are like a ship devoid of a rudder, at the mercy of every wave and current of public sentiment. To commence the process of identifying your core values right now, take this simple step. Procure a notebook and a pen. Recall the happiest moments of your existence. Chronicle what you were engaged in and what rendered those experiences so profoundly gratifying. Subsequently, reflect upon the instances when you felt your greatest pride. What actions did you undertake? What qualities did you embody? Next, consider periods of profound disappointment or regret. What compromises did you make? What do you wish you had done differently? Jot down the words that surface, words such as honesty, creativity, adventure, kindness, loyalty, growth, courage, peace, justice. Resist the urge to censor yourself. Simply allow the words to flow. Once you have amassed a list, begin to group similar terms and then assign them a ranking. Which among them feel most fundamental to your identity? Which would you defend even in the face of adversity? To ascertain the authenticity of your identified values, pay close attention to your emotional responses over the ensuing days. When presented with a choice, ask yourself, which option most closely aligns with my core values? Observe the distinct feelings evoked by different choices. Does selecting the path that honors your values elicit a sense of quiet contentment, even if it is not the path of least resistance? Does opting for the path that compromises them lead to a subtle undercurrent of unease or guilt? These sensations serve as your internal feedback system, guiding you toward a more profound authenticity. When confronted with a conflict between a deeply 3. Facing criticism with confidence, we are intrinsically attuned to the opinions of others not as a flaw, but as a fundamental survival mechanism. In ancestral times, ostracization often meant a swift and brutal end. Our brains therefore evolved a sophisticated radar for social cues, including disapproval. This deep-seated response explains why a sharp word or a critical gaze can feel like a physical blow. Yet, this innate sensitivity need not dictate our lives. The capacity to moderate this drive, to judiciously select which opinions hold sway, is at the core of our exploration. When faced with criticism, it is easy to perceive a judgment of our entire being. However, reframing it, not as a definitive pronouncement, but as an indicator of how our actions are being perceived, marks a significant shift. This does not imply dismissal, but rather a more discerning reception. It is akin to a weather report. It informs us of rain, but does not mandate our actions. Consider the palpable difference in how feedback lands when it comes from someone deeply respected, whose values resonate with our own, versus a stranger whose online persona seems engineered for provocation. Our central concept, managed social concern, is dedicated to cultivating this discernment. It is the recognition that social signals are not of equal import, and we possess the agency to allocate our attention and energy accordingly. Our personal values and sense of purpose function as an advanced filter. When our actions align with these core tenets, criticism often reveals a misunderstanding or a divergence of perspectives, rather than an inherent failing. This filter does not grant immunity to hurt, but it provides a vital framework for comprehension. It prompts the question, does this critique align with my self-knowledge? Does it touch upon something I value, or is it merely a reflection of another's viewpoint or their own internal struggles? This internal congruence fortifies us against the capricious winds of external opinion. This filtering faculty also demands that we become adept at distinguishing between feedback that fosters growth and that which is simply corrosive. It is analogous to discerning healthy sustenance from detrimental fare. Constructive criticism is the nutrient-rich salad. It may not always be palatable, but it is beneficial. It is specific, often well-intentioned, and points towards avenues for improvement. It could be a mentor highlighting a presentation flaw or a friend suggesting a more tactful phrasing. Such feedback is invaluable, refining our actions, bolstering our skills, and deepening our self-awareness and understanding of the world. It is a gift, even when it carries a sting. Destructive criticism, conversely, is the deep-fried candy bar, superficially appealing, but ultimately empty, or worse, harmful. This form of feedback is typically vague, excessively harsh, personal, or delivered with the explicit intent to wound. It may emanate from those harboring envy, insecurity, or a simple predilection for propagating negativity, or it may be a projection of their own unresolved issues. When confronted with such criticism, our managed social concern dictates that the issue lies not with us, but with that source. To internalize or act upon destructive criticism is to build upon shifting sands, an unstable foundation destined to crumble. Learning to identify the origin and intent behind words is a critical skill. The counsel of a trusted colleague is worlds apart from the vitriol of an anonymous online troll. Our values guide our prioritization. We accord greater significance to the opinions of those who have earned our respect and whose intentions are transparent and positive. When criticism strikes, it can feel like a sudden jolt. Our immediate impulse may be to become defensive, to withdraw, or to descend into self-doubt. This is often our inner critic joining the fray, amplifying the external voices. Here, self-compassion transforms from a mere sentiment into an indispensable tool for resilience and advancement. Consider how you would console a dear friend subjected to harsh criticism. You would likely listen with empathy, validate their feelings, remind them of their strengths, and help them attain a more balanced perspective. Self-compassion is the act of extending that same kindness inward. It acknowledges the legitimacy of feeling hurt, disappointed, or angry, for these are human responses. Subsequently, it gently reaffirms our inherent worth, which is not contingent upon external validation. It is the quiet assertion, "This stings, and that is understandable. Yet, I remain worthy. I remain capable." This internal discourse, cultivated assiduously, erects a robust inner sanctuary. It is a space where external opinions may alight, but they do not breach the foundations. This inner fortitude is the bedrock of managed social concern, enabling us to absorb feedback without allowing it to define us. Let us consider an illustration. Sarah had devoted herself wholeheartedly to a community initiative, dedicating countless late nights and rallying support. When a local newspaper published an article that disproportionately highlighted a minor logistical misstep, casting the project in a negative light, Sarah was devastated. Her immediate reaction was to retreat, to perceive herself as a failure. Her inner critic shrieked, "You weren't good enough. You let everyone down." She reread the article, each critical word feeling like a personal assault. Then she recalled a discussion about managed social concern. She inhaled deeply and posed the questions: who authored this article? What is their typical style? Does this criticism align with the values I infused into this project? Community, collaboration, positive impact? She recognized the journalist was known for sensationalism, and the critique, though pointed, focused on a minor detail that did not overshadow the project's substantial positive contributions. Sarah then engaged in her internal dialogue. Rather than allowing the article to magnify her insecurities, she spoke to herself with gentleness. "All right, that was difficult to read, and it's perfectly acceptable to feel upset. But I am acutely aware of the effort invested. I know the good it has already accomplished. And those involved, those who witnessed the dedication and the outcomes, they know too." She reached out to a trusted fellow volunteer, not to vent, but to process. They discussed the article, but more significantly, they spoke of the triumphs, the lessons acquired, and their shared resolve to continue their endeavors. This act of self-compassion and connection, anchored in their shared objective, empowered Sarah to reframe the criticism. It was not an ultimate judgment, but a singular, albeit harsh, perspective within a much broader, more affirmative narrative. She did not entirely disregard the feedback. She acknowledged that perhaps a subtle lesson could be gleaned regarding future media communications. However, she refused to let it diminish her or the project's value. This is where criticism, when artfully managed, becomes a potent engine for growth. It is not about cultivating a callous indifference, but about developing a discerning, wise resilience. When we filter criticism through our values and purpose and approach it with self-compassion, it can illuminate blind spots we might otherwise overlook. It can refine our understanding of how our actions impact others, even when those actions are well-intentioned. It can challenge us to articulate our vision with greater clarity, to fortify our resolve, or even to implement necessary adjustments that propel us closer to our objectives. For Sarah, the criticism, though painful, prompted contemplation on future media engagement. It did not erode her passion, it sharpened her approach. It allowed her to stand more resolutely in her convictions, knowing she had weathered a storm of external opinion by adhering to her inner compass. This capacity to navigate external feedback with confidence, to distinguish the beneficial from the detrimental, and to leverage it for growth rather than allowing it to derail us, is a foundational element of a robust inner world. It stands as a testament to the transformative power of managed social concern in action, converting potential adversity into purposeful advancement. Now, let us examine more closely how the origin of criticism profoundly influences our response. When a trusted mentor, one who has guided, invested in your development, and whose life exemplifies the values you aspire to, offers critique, it carries immense gravitas. This is not merely an opinion, it is a considered assessment from someone intimately familiar with your journey. Your managed social concern naturally prioritizes this feedback because the source is aligned with your own value system. You have faith in their intention to foster your growth. The criticism, even if it points out a significant deficiency, is received as invaluable intelligence, a guidepost for refinement. You listen intently, seeking to grasp their perspective, and are more inclined to integrate their suggestions because you trust their wisdom and their investment in your success. Conversely, consider criticism from an anonymous online commentator whose profile suggests a disposition of perpetual indignation or whose posts are consistently negative and accusatory. In such instances, your managed social concern system should, with practice, recognize that this source likely lacks the credibility, intent, or comprehension to offer meaningful feedback on your actions or character. Their words may still inflict pain due to our innate sensitivity to social signals, but your values and purpose serve as a crucial bulwark. You might ask yourself, does this individual comprehend my aspirations? Do their opinions resonate with the person I strive to become? Is their critique grounded in fact or emotion? If the answers are negative, then the criticism, while potentially wounding, is mere static. It is akin to navigating by a malfunctioning compass. It offers no reliable bearing. Your value system enables you to consciously decide, this opinion does not align with my internal compass, and therefore, I will not permit it to dictate my course. This deliberate filtering is the essence of managing your social concern, not suppressing your need for connection or acceptance, but directing it towards sources that genuinely support your well-being and development. Let us contemplate the immediate aftermath of receiving criticism. The sting can be acute and our thoughts can race. This is precisely when the power of an internal dialogue, imbued with self-compassion, becomes paramount. Imagine you have just been publicly admonished for an error. Your initial thought might be, I am so foolish. Everyone must think I am an idiot. This is your inner critic in overdrive. To counteract this, practice a moment of deliberate pause. Take a deep, slow breath. Then consciously alter your internal narrative. Instead of I am so foolish, try, okay, that was a mistake, and it feels uncomfortable. It is natural to feel embarrassed when we err. But one mistake does not define my intelligence or my worth. I can learn from this. This is not about denying the mistake or pretending it did not occur. It is about acknowledging the feeling without allowing it to metastasize into catastrophic self-condemnation. This practice directly aligns with managed social concern because it involves managing your internal reaction to external stimuli. You are not attempting to eradicate the sensation of discomfort or the awareness of the criticism, but you are actively choosing how you process it internally. It is about recognizing that your worth is not solely determined by the opinions of others, but by your commitment to your values and your pursuit of purpose. By addressing yourself with kindness, you reinforce your inner strength, creating a protective buffer against the harshness of external judgment. It is akin to constructing a sturdy, comfortable dwelling within, a refuge where you can retreat and regroup when the external world feels overwhelming. This self-compassionate internal dialogue is not a singular remedy. It is a practice, much like strengthening a muscle. The more frequently you engage in it, the more natural it becomes and the more resilient you become to the slings and arrows of social feedback. When criticism is filtered through our values and purpose, and we approach it with self-compassion. 4. Defining what truly matters. We often find ourselves adrift, mistaking the ephemeral gleam of external validation for the steady luminescence of inner worth. It is a persistent illusion, a mirage shimmering in the desert of our desires, promising fulfillment in the knot of approval, the acquisition of status symbols, or the ephemeral currency of digital accolades. We stand, convinced that the oasis of contentment lies just beyond the next crest, an oasis sculpted by the expectations and desires of others, what they deem we ought to covet. Yet, the liberating truth is this: these external markers are often but fleeting specters, ephemeral phantoms built upon the shifting sands of others' caprice and the ever-turbulent tides of popular opinion. Consider the transient nature of praise. Today's accolades can morph into tomorrow's censure. The status that feels so weighty can evaporate with the turn of fortune or a subtle shift in societal currents. This relentless pursuit of external affirmation is akin to attempting to fill a sieve. No matter how much water is poured in, the vessel remains empty, its source unreliable and its structure inherently flawed. We become so preoccupied with deciphering the external world, with contorting ourselves to meet the perceived demands of others, that we neglect the profound landscape within. We err in believing that the judgments of others are the ultimate arbiters of our intrinsic value. This misguided pursuit precipitates a perpetual state of anxiety, a gnawing worry about conformity, about acceptance, about the potential misstep that might shatter that fragile, precious approval. It is an exhausting, often solitary endeavor. But what if the true riches lie not outward, but inward, buried deep within, awaiting excavation? Herein lies the nascent understanding of managed social concern. It is not an erasure of our innate human yearning for connection and acceptance, a primal force that has propelled our species through epochs of survival and flourishing. Rather, it is a redirection of that potent energy, a recognition that our deepest sense of value emanates not from the thunderous applause of the multitude, but from the quiet, unwavering resonance of our own being. This leads us to the vital undertaking of unearthing our core values. These are not the echoes of our neighbors' opinions, the pronouncements of our colleagues, or the disembodied voices that populate the digital ether. Your core values are the immutable principles that chart your course, the beliefs that vibrate at the deepest frequency of your soul. They are the silent sextant guiding you toward what is genuinely significant, what authentically constitutes you, even when no one is observing. What then are these values? They may be simple in their articulation: honesty, compassion, fortitude, creativity, fidelity, equity, growth, or communion. They form the bedrock of your character. When your actions align with these principles, a profound sense of integrity blossoms, a quiet confidence impervious to external clamor. Conversely, when you betray your values even in the pursuit of favor, a subtle disquietude often surfaces, a faint dissonance, within your own being. So, how does one unearth these hidden treasures? It demands a measure of honest introspection. Recall moments of profound personal pride. What were you engaged in? Who accompanied you? What principles did you uphold? Perhaps you championed someone unjustly treated, a testament to your commitment to justice or courage. Or maybe you persevered in acquiring a new skill despite formidable challenges, an indication of your dedication to growth or tenacity. Now, consider the inverse. When have you experienced intense frustration or anger? These potent emotions often surface when our values are transgressed, whether by others or by ourselves. If witnessing dishonesty ignited a fierce indignation within you, it suggests that integrity is a foundational value. If a deep sense of regret followed the failure to honor a commitment, perhaps loyalty or steadfastness holds paramount importance. Another illuminating exercise is to envision your final moments, looking back upon your life. What would you wish to be remembered for? What qualities would you hope to be synonymous with your name? The answers to these profound inquiries invariably point toward your most cherished values. It is a journey beyond societal dictates of worth, a discovery of what you truly hold dear. This is the inaugural step in constructing the resilient inner edifice that enables the effective practice of managed social concern. Once we begin to discern our core values, we can perceive their intricate connection to something even more potent, our guiding purpose. Envision your purpose not as an grandiose, world-altering endeavor, though it may well be, but as the fundamental why that underpins your actions. It is the animating force behind your endeavors, the why that sustains your commitment. There exists a chasm between possessing a mere occupation and embracing a calling. An occupation may sustain you financially, but a calling ignites your spirit. An occupation can be dictated by external imperatives, but a calling flows organically from your deepest sense of meaning. When driven by a purpose that resonates profoundly with your being, the opinions of others often recede into the periphery. Picture a firefighter plunging into a conflagration. Their singular focus is the rescue of a trapped child. In that critical instant, their awareness is not occupied by the perceptions of onlookers regarding their attire, their methodology, or their valor. Their purpose, the child's salvation, is of such overwhelming significance that all other social concerns become utterly irrelevant. This is not to suggest an absence of fear or a disregard for external opinion in ordinary circumstances, but rather that their purpose, in that moment of ultimate consequence, provides an extraordinarily robust internal anchor. Their actions are governed by a higher imperative, a deeply ingrained understanding of what truly matters. This profound sense of purpose functions as a formidable filter for the ceaseless barrage of social concerns that assail us daily. When engaged in endeavors that feel meaningful, that harmonize with your values and contribute to something larger than yourself, that petty judgments and criticisms of others lose their potency. They become akin to distant murmurs, easily dismissed. You are too absorbed in building, creating, assisting, or growing to be ensnared by the trivialities of what someone across the street might be contemplating. This congruence of values and purpose bestows upon us an intrinsic compass. It is akin to possessing an internal GPS for life. When you comprehend what genuinely matters to you, your core values and your guiding purpose, you possess a stable point of reference. This compass empowers you to navigate the often perplexing terrain of social interactions. You can discern which opinions merit consideration and which can be safely disregarded. You can judiciously select which social circles or individuals warrant your genuine concern and which merely constitute the ambient noise. This internal compass grants you the fortitude to confidently decline engagements that diverge from your core principles, even if they are popular or anticipated. It also emboldens you to embrace opportunities that resonate with your values and purpose, even if they are unconventional or initially unpopular. You begin to trust your own discernment, to rely on your internal sense of direction rather than perpetually seeking external affirmation. This is the very essence of managed social concern, the deliberate channeling of our innate need for connection toward that which genuinely nurtures our well-being and deepens our sense of self. Let us examine how this manifests in practical terms. Consider two friends, Sarah and Mark. Both possess considerable artistic talent, yet their professional trajectories diverge significantly. Sarah is profoundly driven by her passion for creating art that stirs emotion and provokes contemplation. Her core values are authenticity, self-expression, and fostering connection through her art. Her purpose is to share her unique vision with the world and to inspire others to perceive beauty in unexpected forms. She dedicates countless hours to her studio, infusing her work with her very essence. While she values constructive feedback, she does not permit critiques concerning trends or marketability to derail her creative process. When a gallery owner dismisses her work as too unconventional, Sarah experiences a momentary sting, but she does not falter. She reaffirms her values and her purpose and continues to create the art that speaks to her soul. She is actively practicing managed social concern by prioritizing her internal compass over external validation. Mark, conversely, while also talented, is acutely susceptible to external opinions. He craves recognition and is perpetually preoccupied with the perceptions of fellow artists, critics, and the general public regarding his work. His core values have become nebulous, often shifting to whatever appears fashionable or likely to elicit praise. His purpose, if one can be said to exist, is largely defined by the pursuit of external validation. When a critic pens a scathing review of his latest exhibition, Mark is plunged into despair. He questions his talent, his choices, and his entire career. He may even begin to alter his artistic style in an attempt to placate critics, thereby sacrificing the very essence that initially rendered his art so promising. He is grappling with unmanaged social concern, allowing the opinions of others to dictate his path and erode his sense of self. The disparity between Sarah and Mark lies not necessarily in their raw talent, but in the robustness of their inner worlds. Sarah has clearly defined what genuinely matters to her, and this clarity serves as a protective shield. Mark, in contrast, is perpetually buffeted by the winds of external opinion because he has not established his own internal anchor. Thus, the pertinent question becomes, how do we commence the cultivation of this inner fortitude? It is a continuous journey, yet it begins with conscious intention. Dedicate time each week, even if only for a few minutes, to reflection. Inquire of yourself, what are the principles upon which I will absolutely not compromise? What kind of individual do I aspire to be, irrespective of external judgment? What activities invigorate me most profoundly, infusing me with a sense of purpose? You may find journaling these contemplations beneficial. Articulate the values that surface. Refrain from self-censorship. Then seek recurring themes. Do certain patterns repeatedly emerge? These are likely your core values. In terms of purpose, consider the challenges you are instinctively drawn to address, the impact you wish to effectuate, or the legacy you aspire to bequeath. It need not be a grandiose, earth-shattering purpose. It could be as simple as bestowing joy upon your family, mastering a craft, or contributing meaningfully to your community. The crucial element is that it resonates deeply with you. As you begin to delineate what truly matters, your core values and your guiding purpose, you acquire an invaluable internal compass. This internal clarity does not negate the imperative for social connection or the awareness of others' perspectives. Rather, it empowers you to discern which connections to cultivate and whose perspectives hold genuine weight. In the subsequent section, we shall explore how this refined understanding of what is paramount enables us to engage strategically with the social realm, transforming our innate need for belonging from a vulnerability into a source of profound strength. Conclusion: it is a seductive fantasy, is it not? To stand utterly impervious to the judgments of others. to navigate the currents of existence encased in a bulwark so formidable that the whispers, the sidelong glances, the ephemeral pronouncements simply ricochet, leaving one wholly unblemished. Many have pursued this chimera, yearning to simply disengage that part of the self that frets over conformity or the pursuit of favor. Yet, as we have illuminated, the very endeavor to cease caring is a pursuit as futile as chasing the horizon. Concern for the opinions of others is not a malfunction within our being, it is an intrinsic, fundamental attribute, woven into our very fabric by the immemorial tapestry of evolution. The true alchemy, the pathway to a life imbued with greater richness and tranquility, lies not in the eradication of this concern but in its judicious cultivation. It is in learning to steer it, to harness its power to serve us rather than to subvert us. This is the very essence of what we term managed social concern, the art and the science of orchestrating our social energies with profound discernment. Within these concluding pages, we shall consolidate our discoveries, presenting a luminous blueprint for embracing this latent superpower and forging a life in authentic resonance with our deepest priorities. Cast your mind back to our primal forebears, gathered in the flickering glow of communal fires, their very survival predicated on the bonds of their tribe. To be banished, to be deemed unwelcome by one's kin, was tantamount to an irrevocable sentence of death. This ancient imperative has been indelibly inscribed upon our genetic code. Our brains are exquisitely calibrated to perceive social cues with acute sensitivity, to yearn for connection, and to experience the sting of rejection with a visceral intensity akin to physical injury. This is why a harsh word can lodge itself in the psyche, why a compliment can elevate the spirit, and why the dread of scrutiny can, at times, render us inert. This is not an indication of frailty, it is a profound testament to our deeply ingrained social nature, the very bedrock upon which our species ascended. And yet, here we stand, adrift in a world vastly dissimilar to the intimate hamlets of antiquity, bombarded by the clamor of billions of voices. Our ancestral circuitry, honed for the dynamics of close-knit communities, now struggles to contend with the sheer immensity and intricate complexity of modern social landscapes. This dissonance is the fertile ground from which the fantasy of indifference springs, and the reason why the reality of feeling overwhelmed by it is so pervasive. So, what precisely constitutes this managed social concern? It is not an invitation to reclusion, nor the cultivation of a stoic indifference. Rather, it is an active, intentional undertaking to select with deliberation where and how we deploy our invaluable social capital. It is the recognition that we possess agency in this vital domain. The initial, and arguably most critical, phase of this management involves grounding ourselves in our personal values. When we possess a clear understanding of our convictions, when our deeply held beliefs, be they honesty, compassion, innovation, fortitude, or any other guiding principle, are vividly defined, these values become our internal compass. Envision a conflagration raging outside your domicile. In such a moment, would you truly be preoccupied with a neighbor's critique of your lawn maintenance regimen? Assuredly not. Your focus would be irrevocably fixed upon the urgent, the indispensable. Similarly, when our lives are guided by robust personal values, the trivial pronouncements of others recede into insignificance. The identification of these core values is akin to discovering your true north. It provides an unshakable point of reference, against which all external feedback can be judiciously assessed. The second cornerstone of managed social concern is purpose. The possession of a meaningful purpose acts as a potent filter, enabling us to discern the signal from the cacophony of social expectations. When we are engaged in endeavors that transcend our individual selves, whether it be nurturing a family, pursuing a cherished passion, contributing to the well-being of our community, or mastering a particular craft, our focus undergoes a profound shift. We become less beholden to the fleeting affirmation of external sources and more attuned to the trajectory and the impact of our chosen path. This purpose furnishes an internal benchmark for achievement, one that exhibits far greater resilience than the capricious tides of public sentiment. It is the animating force that empowers us to declare, "This is the objective towards which I strive, and this is what holds paramount importance at this juncture." Crucially, managed social concern also necessitates a conscious determination regarding who we permit to exert influence upon us. It entails the understanding that not all opinions carry equal weight. We possess the capacity to prioritize the feedback of individuals who genuinely hold us in regard, who share our fundamental values, and who contribute constructively to our lives, rather than being swayed by the ephemeral thoughts of strangers or those who seem predisposed to negativity. It is an act of curating our social ecosystem, not by erecting barriers, but by fostering the connections that genuinely sustain us. The exquisite paradox of this process is that as our desperation for validation diminishes, as we cultivate a greater assurance in our own values and purpose, we often find ourselves earning the respect of those whose opinions truly merit our consideration. The initiation of this journey is not a singular event, but an ongoing pilgrimage. It commences with an unflinching examination of the self. Dedicate time to the profound task of identifying your core values. What principles are non-negotiable for you? What ideals do you champion, even in the face of adversity? Perhaps begin a journal, meticulously recording those moments when you felt most authentically yourself, and endeavor to discern the underlying values that were operative. Subsequently, contemplate your purpose. What activities imbue your life with a sense of meaning? What challenges do you feel compelled to address? Even modest steps in cultivating a sense of purpose can precipitate significant positive change. Equally vital is a conscious awareness of your social milieu. Who are the individuals with whom you habitually associate? Do they uplift you, offer constructive challenges, and honor your authentic self? Seek to cultivate these relationships and gently disengage from those who consistently deplete your energy or undermine your sense of self-worth. Bear in mind that managed social concern is an active practice. It demands perpetual vigilance. Periodically engage in self-assessment. Where is your focus of concern directed? Does it align with your values and your purpose? Does it contribute to your overall well-being? Exercise patience with yourself. Small, consistent efforts will gather momentum, precipitating profound transformations over time. In essence, the central tenet of this exploration is that profound caring is not a defect to be rectified, but a fundamental human attribute that, when understood and prudently managed, transmutes into our most formidable strength. By embracing managed social concern, we do not morph into individuals devoid of warmth or empathy. Instead, we become more genuine, more resilient, and more adept at forging authentic, resonant connections. We unlock our inherent social superpower, not by stifling our concern for others, but by directing it with wisdom, purpose, and an unwavering devotion to that which truly matters. This is the bedrock upon which a life of enhanced serenity, profound fulfillment, and an